All right, going live on video. Stand by for audio. All right, good day and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Live the Fuel show. So today I'm bringing on, yet another new co-host for you. This young lady has a very unique background. She may be young, but she is an accomplished speaker. She has worked with more than 600 businesses and thousands of individuals on their sales, their marketing, systems. 5 years worth of work here we're talking about. But here's the best part of that public speaking piece. She's been a TED speaker, a Forbes 30 under 30 nominee, a 2-time best-selling author, an entrepreneur, obviously, a coach, and a trainer dedicated to teaching the same skills that allowed her to build a business from scratch and walk away from her job in less than, get this, 5 months. So without further ado, Miss Stephanie Scheller, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting. I love doing this stuff.
And the best part is for our listeners, because they know how crazy these episodes sometimes get, we just geeked out for like 10 to 15 minutes just on microphone technology. So that's just how we roll. We are completely transparent here. Do you feel more knowledgeable now? Do you feel like an audio geek a little bit? Because it happens.
I feel a little bit more like an audio geek. You've got you now, and I've got this other guy that I turn to, and between you two, I'm going to have the best material or the best tech ever.
Well, it's about leveling up in life, right?
Yeah.
And one of my buddies, because we're crazy outdoorsy nuts. We ski, we mountain bike, we skydive. My one buddy literally says, he's like, he who has the most gear wins. And I'm like, that gets very expensive. I have to be careful with that. So I don't know if you like to chime in on that one at all, but.
I was going to say, I think it's partially who has the most gear, but also who has the best gear. Because to an extent, you can have a ton of gear and it could actually end up bogging you down.
That's true.
So it's like we were talking about, right? Finding the right mic, the good mic.
Hey, I was joking around how when I set up the studio, I bought the soundboard. I have a separate, because like Zoom will record audio and video right now. But yeah. I went ahead and bought, because my coach at the time, he said, Scott, he's like, go hardware. I'm like, what do you mean? Because back then I was like most podcasters and just using Skype. He's like, Skype might be fine for 3 months. And then one day it'll give you a heart attack right in the middle of your show. And you'll lose you'll like, okay, what do I do? Like, cause then, or if you're using recording software, and a lot of podcasters do this. And I was like, all right, what do you recommend? He's like, dude, just offload all the content onto a digital audio recorder. He's like, because that way, if your whole computer has a heart attack, while it's rebooting, you just hit pause. And then your editor just merges the tracks back together, and it was like it never happened.
You're done.
I was like, nice. Dude, I'm loving that. So there's another little tip.
That you see, you're just full of stuff. I was telling you, I felt like I was actually pretty decent at this podcasting thing. Now I'm just not.
It's
so
a
sure.
never-ending black hole of knowledge. It just keeps going deeper and deeper.
This is true. But the cool thing is, if you keep connecting with awesome people, you keep learning more and more. Eventually you'll get, at least competent.
Uh-oh. Are you dropping a knowledge bomb right now? Are we about to geek out on the power of networking and growing your circles of influence?
Yes. Oh my God. That's like my favorite topic in the world.
Oh, we're going there. We're going there because I'm obsessed with it. I've been networking. I've been on LinkedIn since it was founded. I mean, people still don't understand what the hell LinkedIn is. I'm like, literally, I joined like a month after it started. So.
Like, yeah, I didn't know about it until about 3 years ago. And then I jumped, or no, I guess it was 4 now. Wow, it's amazing how fast time
I know, right?
But no, I think it's awesome. And I'm such a big fan. I do everything about the people you hang out with, the friends you choose. I was talking with an entire audience yesterday just about this. And I was like, the thing is, most of us know about this whole network, friend power. Your net worth is your network, right? Jim
Everybody's
Rohn,
got another slogan. Hey, I'm a big fan of Jim Rohn. Love Jim Rohn. I love these historic influencers. And maybe you use his classic quotes. Maybe you make your own. In the end, it's the same message, right?
It is. Well, and one of the things I always tell people is keep in mind, it's about the friends you choose, right? So people are always like, oh, it's who I hang out with. No, you have to make a choice to go, spend your Saturday recording a podcast with some super smart guy so you can try and pick up some awesome tips. That's a choice.
Or I'm learning about the value of, you just taught me about how some people on Zoom change their screen options. I didn't realize that. Number one, I thought I knew that. But I just literally left it the way it was when I first set up my Zoom account. So I guess you're telling me how some people change how they do the side by side. And you were joking around about how, well, what if you're putting your head down and taking notes Because then people are just looking at your forehead.
Right?
And I was like, dude, I never thought about that. So now I'm so glad I don't do that because I would feel bad.
Right? Well, and like I felt terrible, so I wore lipstick that day, and I don't wear a ton of like lipstick, but I kept checking my teeth. I got a little mirror, and I kept being like, check it. So like all the way through the recording, I'm like checking my teeth.
Well, right before we kicked off, didn't I was actually bring up your site and your intro, and weren't you actually putting on lipstick, I think, out of the corner of my eye? So,
I was, because I was like, I looked at myself in the picture and I was like,
you're like, you know what? I'm going to glam this up a little bit. I'm going to glam it up a little, just a little. Right. So
got a persona to keep up now.
I feel like I'm slacking. I didn't bring my lipstick today. So,
I have
worn lipstick. I've worn it. So it was Halloween. It was Halloween.
Oh, okay.
Well, not just Halloween. God, this is. Oh, you want the story? Okay.
Yeah, of course I want the story.
I'm 40. I don't like to bring up ages, but I mean, are we? Okay. Do we have a huge gap?
29. So.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. How far back do you know the old Coca-Cola media programs?
Not super far now.
All right, there was like an old like rock star style Coca-Cola commercial years ago where there was like one dude playing guitar and all of these tall women in black dresses with like lots of white makeup and really bright red lipstick. I can't remember the song, but like it's just anyway. So my buddy, who's 6'5" at the time, 260 rugby player, and me, and then one of our girlfriends, she's like, "All right, well, I'll be the guitar guy, and you guys be the girls." So 6'4" and 6'5" in high heels, black tight dresses with leggings, and then makeup, and our hair was all because in the music video, all the hair has to be slicked back. Like it's like your hair's like right. Plastered back. So just picture this. Just it was not, and I had to shave. So but
that was the tough part. I know.
Yeah. So you ladies are leg shaving, man. Whew.
Oh my God. I know. My husband gives me such a hard time on that when he's like, I have to shave every day. I'm like, I have to shave like 4 times as much skin as you. Like, come on.
Yeah. I respect the struggle's real. The struggle's real.
The struggle is real. I will agree.
But there's your backstory on why I wore lipstick. So
why I needed to know these things about you if we're going to co-host here.
I've always joked around. Like I love to be completely transparent, sometimes to a fault. So but back to the power of networking, right? And you and I hanging out and growing circles is like, well, that's what makes the networking piece even more valuable. Because if people know that you're real, they're going to be drawn to you. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they will. And you actually, your story made me tear up over here. I was
awesome.
Laughing, trying not to kill myself.
I like to crack up my audience.
But no, I think you're right. And I think right now we have so many people out there who aren't authentic anymore. And so the thing is, we as human beings, we adapt, right? So we're starting to get really good at figuring out people who are real and who are authentic. And we're starting to be able to pick up on it and brush off the people we don't trust. So you're right. That's a huge piece of your network and being able to be real with them.
Realness and transparency. We could actually, we could totally flip that and just turn that into like a dating episode. Like how many people are not real and transparent in life in general? Like we're talking about from a business perspective, but like this kind of applies in a lot of domains.
I was going to say, let's just pull up Tinder real quick. I don't have the app on my phone.
Wait a minute. Are you trying to say that Tinder's not real and transparent?
I'm just saying that some people may have the worst brought out of them on that app.
I will tell you, I have poked around on Tinder with all my friends' apps and stuff like that. I mean, I'm engaged, so I don't need to. But the best part is like, and she still has her Tinder profile, by the way. And once in a while, we'll just go in there and just laugh. Like, there's some people who actually do not mind being real and transparent, and it's kind of scary. Like, it's like, okay, maybe you shouldn't have been that transparent because
not that much.
I don't know how many hits your profile is getting. So I don't know.
Well, like there's this thing called EQ, right? Like understanding other people's emotions and how stuff impacts them. It's your emotional intelligence. How well do you understand other people? I think some people have a very low EQ.
Ooh, I like that. Now, do you talk about EQ in any of your presentations and speaking? You know, while I'm at it, I'm taking advantage of Zoom here. I'm going to do some screen sharing. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check out StephanieScheller.com. And for the video feed, there she is. So is that something you talk about? Like when you're doing your smash your targets conversations?
I don't have a talk about EQ very often. I talk a lot about action, setting clear goals, I talk a lot about breaking through barriers. So one of the things I do a lot is I'm a second degree black belt Taekwondo. And so we'll go on stage and we'll write out like, what are the 3 things that hold you back, right? Fear, knowledge, lack of knowledge, and, we'll find whatever else is applicable for the audience, write them down on bricks, and then actually go break. So we do the whole talk showing everyone the bricks and how heavy all these things are that hold us back. And then we'll actually go in and actually do the break and break through the bricks and tell them, hey, when you put everything together. So I talk a lot more about the, take action and inside of it than just the EQ side, but that's a fun conversation. I will not lie.
Well, maybe we're giving you a new topic. I don't know.
You might.
Well, I love the Taekwondo thing because I studied karate as a kid. Obviously, I studied Shoin-ryu, so more Okinawan Japanese based history there. Okay. So, and actually, I did get to spar against Taekwondo from time to time in a couple of tournaments when I was a kid. So, and I always won. So that was. I'm not trying to say I was better than Taekwondo. All I'm saying is that being 6'4", I have very long legs, and that seems to be a strength on the Taekwondo side because in our training, I was more leg dominant to an advantage in that because I think in Taekwondo, there's a lot of kicking going on.
Taekwondo, that is Taekwondo is like, it's our kicks, right? Tae is feet. First and foremost, it's your feet. Kwon is your hands. Do is your head, right?
Okay. So, you just taught me something because I never bothered learning that. I had no idea. So.
They always taught us that it's the way of the hands, the way of the feet, the hands, and the head. And it's when you break it down like that, right? It helps you understand. Taekwondo is about the kicks. It's about having those really, if I can land a side kick on you, you're not coming back from it.
Ooh, I do remember. Man, you get that side edge of your foot. It's like slicing right into the bag. Yeah. Oh yeah, because we had those impact pads that would measure impact strength, the digital readout. You guys have those too?
No, we did not.
I felt that was I feel that's kind of advanced. I mean, we're going back to, God, I stopped doing that when I was like 17, 18. So I started when I was 13. So I would have been, God, those pads were in the early 90s. So
yeah,
maybe we were advanced. Really I don't know. Ooh, we got like a little digital thing, but you could basically, it was measuring pounds per square inch of strike force. So, like we were doing like, I don't know if you guys do horse stance, but in an athletic stance, horse stance, and then switching to fighting stance, because then it was important to teach people the power of your fist strikes, right? Like how some people say throwing a roundhouse style punch, it like boxing is powerful, but like, listen, you have that right strike force and you from the hip coming forward, it's powerful. And they would show that. So I just remember I'm flashing back to childhood right now. This is awesome. So,
well, I love teaching. I taught Taekwondo for 3 years, and it's something's very special about going in and teaching these kids and shaping those kids, like how they perceive the world around them and how they interact with the world. It was a very special time in my life. I will not lie. I love doing that.
I love the fact that you're bringing this up because, whether we talk about health, business, or lifestyle on this show, I think getting people to the point of confidence and strength in their lives is the value there. Like I just got done before you recording with Dr. Nick Zarowski, and he's a natural doctor, right? Board certified and everything else for natural wellness. And we just talked a lot about the value of education. And when you up your level of knowledge on certain subjects or topic areas, you naturally get more confident. I mean, it kind of ties back to networking, right? Like if you're hanging out and networking and connecting with people, if you could tell stories and share just some of your knowledge, but not in a bragging way, but just be able to hold that conversation, that's a confidence booster too. Like not everybody's ready to get on stage like you, right? It's like, oh, you have to put in the reps for that too. And I think something as powerful as martial arts is definitely something that boosted my confidence as a youth.
Oh yeah. Because especially when you start to so the way we always learned it, and I at first I hated it and then I loved it, was like my school taught us very basic stuff at the very beginning, and it wasn't really effective or useful. It was like, how do you do a punch from the belt, first your hand out, right? Like it's stuff you'd never use in real life.
Huh.
And it wasn't really till you got to red belt that you suddenly started learning, oh, here's how that impacts the body. And here's all these things. But you built up the skill set of the basics. And then you started to learn how it impacted the world around you. And so it became this kind of great analogy of, once you know yourself and you know how you impact the world and you start to pay attention, right? People always ask me, as soon as they find out I'm a second-degree black belt, the first question is, have you ever gotten in a fight? And I'm like, the whole point is to not.
I was going to say, I was going to try and answer that for you, but I'm like, I was always taught to not fight. I was afraid to get into fights because, and now you fast forward the years later and people are like, what do you mean you're afraid? But well, now, like if the police find out that you're trained, right? Technically, your hands are now considered weapons or your feet are considered weapons. So depending on what goes down, the whole point, I think, of martial art is not just building up your strength and your confidence, the ability to strike and have that control, but also it's that grounding fundamental of, checking your shit, dude. Like if you're losing control, you did not have a good sensei.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then it's like, it's all about prediction almost, right? Where you just like, you pay attention to what's going on around you. And you got to be in control. And it has made me a little bit of a control freak, but at the same time, I'm like, that is a huge part of what's made me successful.
Jesus, I'm a bit of a control freak. Wait, are you trying to, is this why I'm a control freak? Do I have to blame my martial arts training? Damn it.
I would go for it. Blame it all on martial arts.
Great. I'm going to use that when I talk to my fiance later. I'm like, listen, babe, we figured out on today's podcast why I'm so controlling.
I'm sure she will totally give you a pass on that one.
She's just going to be like, doesn't give you an excuse or a pass. So just,
just cut it out.
But I know I see the value in that. It's not so much of a control factor, but I'll use your slogan here, right, on your site, smash your targets, right? It's just, it's not about smashing your targets. It's having the confidence and the control when I look at that to know that I can, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you physically have to smash your targets.
Right.
Although breaking bricks, right? There you go. You're smashing targets. I broke wood. I broke concrete when I was a kid. Been there, done that. So,
right.
So, I mean, why do you feel that people do resort to the physical versus what we just kind of referred to there? Not to go off of the business topic, but right? I mean, well, the whole martial art piece and people losing control and going to the physical instead of showing the self-control. Because I think this also applies to business, but I want to slowly get there. So I just want to hear how you chime in on something like that.
Well, and I think that kind of comes back to that EQ thing. We don't teach EQ, we teach IQ. You think about what we could teach in our schools. We teach, we teach thinking, we teach smarts, we teach strength, we teach PT, right? So we go back, like that's the arena we're most comfortable in. Very few people ever get the chance to really get that EQ side. And I didn't get trained on it. It was that I sat back, like my mom would always joke and say, Steph, you were hilarious because you'd watch your sister get in trouble, watch what she did and never duplicate it. Like that was always, I was like, okay, here's how the world interacts. Yeah. Don't do this.
Interesting. So you were already analyzing the situation and basically delaying your reaction, right? You wanted to learn and see what would happen first. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. So how many people don't do that? Right?
I think people just aren't taught, right? Martial arts teaches you control, right? I remember as I think it was a green belt, they would not let me spar anyone but a black belt for several months. And they put me up against the black belts who could hit hard because I'm not a small person. I'm 5'8", and I was fighting a bunch of, Mexicans who are, 4'3". Wow. And so, because my dad's German, right? And I've got a lot of strength. So they put me up against all these black belts to teach me control. And I even scared a couple of black belts off from fighting me as a green belt, because if I connected, man, you were not getting your breath back. Yeah. And they finally came to me, and my instructor came to me and said, Stephanie, you're not allowed to spar until you go out and kick a tree 50 times. He was like, no pad, just go kick the tree. I was like, are you kidding? So I went out and I started, and it hurt. Yeah. Like the tree bites back. And what I had to learn was control. And we don't get taught that. We get taught a whole bunch of smarts. We get taught our body. We don't get taught how to look at the world. We don't get taught control.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, because I'm already flashing back. Like yesterday, I was recording with a guy. His brand was called Strive and Grind. And we dug into those two words because he came from his childhood. He literally said like 30 kids died in his school. And I know this is already a sensitive topic right now because of what just happened in Florida, but this was not mass what happened in Florida, right? This was just over time. Like he was just from a rough school on the East Coast. And that's just, he just grew up that way, and kids were like dying every year, like shootings, all kinds of stuff. So it wasn't like a mass thing. I'm like, wow, 30 kids. He's like growing up that way. So he said, listen, he's like, yeah, he started realizing if he needed to change his life and he had to change his surroundings and he had to start grinding, right? Like taking action. This is what we see online right now, everywhere. What you're hinting at here is, we're taught to take action, strike, smash your targets, right? Like get out there and just start kicking ass and taking names. But people forget that along that way is that, and he made a valuable point. He's like, what am I doing to really strive and ascend along the way? It's not just taking action, because if it's all action, what are you doing to grow along that path? And that's where he kind of really defined the word strive more. Like he was looking to strive in life, to give back more along the way. It wasn't just making money and being successful and showing that he could put in the reps and hustle and grind, right? It's just like, what am I going to do to strive along that path? So I loved where he went with that. And I wanted to tie that into what you're talking about here, because that's what I'm hearing from you. And we see this in business all the time, especially in the sales profession, right? Like, because one of your books, I'll go back to some screen sharing again here, actually. One of your books on your site here was Getting Past the Gatekeeper. Your other book is Friend Power, but getting past the gatekeeper, right? Everybody feels like, oh, well, man, you just gotta keep trying, right? Phone calls, emails, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, are you actually building a relationship with that person? Are you slowing down enough to actually realize that's another human being? And are you connecting with them? So I'm intrigued to see how you're going to go with this one.
I'm so glad you asked this one, because this is one of my favorite questions, because I titled that book A Big Misnomer. And I kind of did it on purpose, because what happened was when I started in sales, everyone was like, okay, that was who we blamed for not hitting quota, right? You get back, you didn't hit quota, and you get around the water cooler.
Gatekeeper, man. I just can't get past the gatekeeper.
Yeah. Like, I hate them. And I didn't even notice. So when I started doing the sales training business, and I started, I was still making cold calls. I still make cold calls. Like, I don't have to. I do it more to keep my skills sharp than anything else.
Yeah.
But I was still making cold calls. So you're still hitting gatekeepers. And I didn't even notice that I wasn't having trouble with them until about a year and a half later. And someone finally commented about how much he hated the gatekeepers. He came to a training of mine, was talking afterwards, and then he's like, oh man, I got to go to the stupid gatekeepers. And I was like, I haven't had trouble with a gatekeeper in years. Right. And so that was when I started to realize, okay, what am I doing differently? And what I realized was I was no longer treating them like an obstacle. See, the key is actually no longer to get past the gatekeeper. The key is to turn them into your ally, to become their friend, to understand it's a human being, have fun with them. Those guys have so much control.
Oh yeah.
Like
you're either in or you're out, right? Like she or he is not just a secretary. Like, no, that's your in or you're out. I mean, and I love the fact you bring this up, because it's interesting. So this morning we did this ridiculously huge partners workout at one of the CrossFit gyms I train at. And afterwards, one of my regular co-hosts was there she was there working out with us, but then she was there to speak. She's a sports psychologist, and from a brand called Mind of the Athlete. So I love that, because in your comments on your website, you're talking about mindset. We talk about mindset. She comes on every single month. So she's my regular co-host I bring on once a month.
I was going to say, I think I was listening to a couple of her podcasts.
Yeah,
She's
Dr. Megan Cannon is legit.
Yes.
So I love her. And but we talked a lot today about, like, I just scored I'm usually not big into the boastful crap, but I have a new trophy because at that gym, they do an internal called the Crush competition every year for just the members. So you're not competing with other gyms in CrossFit like normally. And it's just saying, hey guys, this is the community. You're here to work out. If you want to compete, you can. If you don't, no big deal, because the owner releases a new workout for 5 weeks, and you have to complete that workout to the best of your ability. And then the average of those decides if you won or not. And since I just turned 40 in September, I was like, all right. Everybody's like, oh, when you turn 40, it's all downhill from there. So it's like, I love to prove people wrong. So I said, all right, I'm going to start doing that little competition thing. So anyway, long story short, I won. So the 40 plus age
Yay.
category, I beat out a few other guys. But the point here is not the boast, right? It's what was learned from that experience. And she does a great job today talking about mindset, which I know you agree with me on. And she was tying it back to the Olympics. And we were tying it to when you step up maybe it's just coming in that day and tying back to Taekwondo. Maybe you just want to strike a little harder. Maybe you want to last a little longer for endurance. In the Olympics, right? These ladies, man, they're about to do the most competitive thing in their lives, in another country competing against all the world's best athletes. So right now she brought up she was showing on the projector how these athletes, they visualize where they're going to go, visualization. So it's interesting. It's like, okay, how many sales professionals actually visualize them walking into that meeting, visualize talking to the gatekeeper that day, and then visualize once they get past the gatekeeper, right? Positive mindset. Once you're past the gatekeeper, how you're going to visualize your meeting going. So I'm just interested to see what you feel about something like that. Do you ever get into the visualization piece?
I do. And it's funny because, so we actually walk people through the whole practice of so when I was going for my first degree belt and my second, one of the key things they told us was you need to spend time every single day, not just doing your forms, but you actually just need to sit on your butt and walk through it in your head. Mm-hmm. Every day. We had to get through all of our forms and we had to turn in a check sheet that showed we did it. Yeah. And so the visualization part is huge. And we sit down, we actually do a lot of our events that we host will include a piece of sitting down. And after we've done the training and after they've written their script or whatever outline of what they're going to do, then we actually sit down and walk through it with someone else and okay, what's it going to look like? And actually force them to verbalize the visualization so that they can see it, because you're right, they don't. But it's one quote I use all the time. It goes, sorry, ADD. Did I mention I'm ADD? I totally went off down a rabbit trail.
I've tried to use that one. I think that's us trying to it's like passing it off on the gatekeeper. Be accountable. Come on. It's all right. You're on the mic right now. Just roll with it.
So the quote is that when two people meet, the one who's most certain will always influence the other.
Okay.
And so I always tell people when you go in, if you're extremely confident about how that conversation is going to end, there's a really high chance it's going to end that way. Right. And so go in knowing how you want to do it. So I actually was spending time, I got a tough conversation coming up with a client next week. And I was spending time this morning and last night, working through how it's going to look like walking through the entire conversation 3 or 4 times so that it's
preparing for the art, it's like, I think some of the best lawyers, for example, they're going to prepare for the argument, right? You're preparing for, okay, what if they say this? What if they say that? How am I going to respond? What's my body behavior? What's my auditory reflection, or how am I going to be going through all of this? I think that's powerful. It's interesting because it's funny because what you're talking about, actually, I'm going to go ahead and do no screen share again, but this is something I put on Instagram from this morning from Dr. Megan Cannon. So there she is. And a couple of her slides I shared, which I loved, I think you'll get a kick out of here, is 6 ways to get your head in the game. And right there, the last one is visualization. But she's like, no, all of this needs to happen first, right? Where's your sleep? Where's your rest and recovery? It's not just, oh, did you sleep great the night before? She's like, it's really more powerful, little tip. It's actually 2 nights before. The most crucial sleep is 2 nights before, because I don't care how good you are. She's like, as a pro athlete, people are going to be nervous the night before. But if you set the bar 2 nights before for proper sleep, it makes that last night before the competition that much easier. So that was interesting. But then she was talking about minimizing your distractions, right? That's the point of sitting down and not necessarily meditating, but visualize. This is even before visualization, setting your goals. Yeah. She talks about the power of music, right? If you are sitting down preparing for next week's big meeting, what kind of music are you listening to? Right? Do you have the aggressive, I'm ready to go in and do my sweat workout, or go step into a ring and maybe hit some kumite, whatever? Or are you doing more of a Zen style music to allow you to think and dig deep? It was great. It was just a great presentation. And then we were joking about pre-performance rituals. That's where I brought up the olive oil. I was like, oh yeah, every morning, my pre-ritual every morning is I wake up and have a shot of olive oil now. And everybody in the audience today just looked over and what? I was like, yeah, it's a dose of healthy fats. And I'm a podcaster, so it also lubricates the vocals. And everybody's just like, and then Megan's standing there and she's a regular on the show. And she's like, I never knew that. I was like, well, there you go.
Now you know, right? Well, I didn't know it either. And I was actually telling you, like, that's awesome because it's funny because a lot of those, so I just did a really big event yesterday. It was a huge keynote for a conference here in San Antonio, and big deal, put a lot of energy into it. And I, made sure I went to bed on time, right? 2 nights. It actually did 2 nights leading up to it just because I knew I was so tired from Wednesday. I didn't realize there was like science behind that. And I have like my pre-routine, and everyone was like a bunch of the other speakers at the event were not professional speakers. So I'm backstage like doing my music and like getting myself going, and they're all like,
yeah,
what is she doing?
Hey, you're a peak performer.
Right. I was like, no, you got it. Tony Robbins talks about the state. You got to put yourself in the right state.
Are you watching the Olympics at all right now?
We are watching pretty much every night. We're tuning in and watching some of those.
When the cameras first pan over, what do you see the athletes doing in the background? They got their eyes closed. I'm going to step away from the microphone here. They got the music on, and they're taking themselves through the run.
Yep.
And one of her athletes, I forget the guy's name, but Megan works with one of the border cross guys, one of the guys that do the battle style race on the snowboards. So she's working with one of those guys. And so she played he actually had a video made, and he talks about it. He's just sitting there. The whole video starts off. His eyes are closed, and he's just like, and then all of a sudden the narration comes over, and he's talking to you about why he looks funny doing that. Like, this is what I do, man. He's like, this is what elite athletes have to do. You have to visualize yourself going through and succeeding. And he's like, and then when the day hits and you go, it just feels right. And your confidence
100 times
in your head. Yeah.
Yep.
And she brought up Phelps, most ridiculous swimmer ever.
Right.
And he talked, people didn't know that when he got the one gold, he said, listen, he's like, when I dove into that pool, my goggles didn't seal. They were full of water. So his eyes were closed the whole time.
Yep.
And he won the gold. But how do you do that? He's like, because he's visualized that. He knew exactly how many strokes it takes him to get to one side of the pool and back again. He knows that course or that pool or how many laps, because he's done it over and over in his head. So
there's no screwing that one up at that point. And that was one of his record-setting ones, wasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, it was a record-setting gold medal, and he did it blind, like literally.
Which goes to what Megan was she was talking about, no distractions, right?
Yep.
So to take this to a business side, right? So oftentimes we allow ourselves to get pulled into all these distractions, right? We don't sit there and I talked about this yesterday at the keynote, right? You got to visualize where you're going with the business. You got to know where you're going. You got to see yourself there. Every morning I sit down, I write down my goals. And then I didn't talk about it yesterday, but the thing I do afterwards, I look at the goal and I'm like, what's it going to be like to have that? Like, how cool is it going to be? And you live it in your head. And so by the time you get there, it's kind of like I'm doing stuff now that I was realizing this is stuff I used to dream about doing. And it just feels so natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
It is. And that's, I think, a huge key people miss in business all the time is that setup.
I love stepping into sales meetings all the time now. I mean, I travel and do business development for one of my biggest clients, and they don't have anybody in upstate New York. I'm trying to help them find some new talent in upstate New York. So for this past year, I've just going up there and I go and meet with all the company's buyers for them because they just don't have anybody up there, and they know that if I step in, there's going to be some stuff happening. So the beauty is it's fun. And for the first 5-10 minutes of every meeting, I never talk business. I'm catching up because I literally they use Salesforce, so I've had them activate additional fields in their data points for each contact, saying I had them create a lifestyle box. So I was like, listen, and I'm training their sales team. I'm like, listen, guys, as you guys get to know these people, pick up on little things, like what's in their office, what do they talk about? Again, back to the gatekeeper, right? So then you make those notes in the system, and then maybe you haven't seen that person in a year. So you go back into the database, oh yeah, okay, so this is that guy's lifestyle, blah, 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 blah. Or this is what she's got 3 kids. I was like, you don't realize that. And then eventually you've met with that person so many times, you've already memorized it. But the beauty of putting it in Salesforce is that, if and when I'm ready to hand off that area to a new talent, I'm like, hey, this is what I've built for you. All that data is there. I've got it in my head now. but FYI, it's there in case I forget. So the point is like
and it keeps you from, not to interrupt, but like it keeps you from having to keep it in your head. And then that distraction thing, we're back to that. I got to remember 30 things, right? Like I'm good at what I do because I focus one thing at a time.
Yes.
Like I will knock this out and then this. And then I had people trying to talk to me yesterday before I went on stage. And I was just like,
not happening.
You gotta wait.
I'm in the zone. All right.
Right.
I'm a professional athlete. I'm a professional speaker. I'm in my zone. Don't be breaking it up.
Yeah. You can't do this. And so like having those notes, right? Like this is, for me, I used to laugh at, I'm trying to remember, I think it's Family Guy or Simpsons, right? And Carl, I don't know if you watch The Simpsons. My husband introduced
my fiance
me to
once in a while will pop it up. Yeah.
Okay. So
I don't purposely search it out, but I know all those guys.
Okay. So one of the characters gets promoted. He puts Homer as his assistant and they go to this big event in Paris, and the character is, talking to all the figureheads, and Homer's whispering in his ear, like what he should say to each of them. And I used to watch all this and be like, that is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right. And now like watching it, it came on last night and I was watching it and I was like, I could see why someone would actually need that, because I want to be able to feel like they care. I care about them because I do, but I didn't have time to do all that research, but you did. And so like, it seemed really ironic to suddenly understand why someone would have someone else to carry that information for them so they could focus on what was really important at hand.
It's interesting. Like I have an interesting question for you then. So we're talking about this and we haven't said the words yet, but the whole time, like I have bragged about being a multitasker, and that has changed over the years. That's what I'm getting from you too. Did you ever do that in the past?
I did, especially the whole women are better than men. I used to be all about multitasking.
Right. And that is a known psychological strength of ladies, actually, as professionals, especially. So I back you up on that 110%.
Well, it's considered one, and women are better at it than men, but we can just task switch better than men. And they're actually finding that average employees, now I'm just assuming that none of your listeners and you and I are not average, but they lose almost 40 hours a month to task switching in efficiencies, to where they're inefficient for 10, 15 minutes moving back into a task because they got pulled off to go do something.
Well, what's interesting is I've had on a few mindset people and we talk about psychology. We talk about hacking performance. And that's what I'm getting here. You and I are geeking on that right now. And it's like, well, like, for example, there's actually, when you sit down and you figure out your brain and how you perform, you got to figure out there's actually, you ever done research into flow state?
A little bit, not as much as I want.
Yeah. So I've had a guy on here and he wrote a book recently on like the whole flow state thing. And he's an electrical engineer. So he geeks out on flow from an electrical current standpoint.
Nice.
And then ties it back to us as at the cellular level. Crazy. Awesome guy. But we talked about it and he's like, listen, he's like, you have to figure out when and even where sometimes your flow state is. So that's why you see now more people like me. I'm such an active person. Like I have a standing desk. So not everybody's into that, right? But like I'm more engaged. When I switched to the standing desk, it wasn't just for the health and fitness. I'm here, man. I am in it. So that there's like a wear factor. But then also they talked about how like, listen, some people, it goes back to fitness too, right? Not everybody is a morning person. Not everybody's a night person. But also sometimes some people need to brain dump at night before they go to bed. Or they're already going to visualize their morning the night before. Like, hey, when I wake up, this is my morning protocol. Some people talk about that. Other people say, listen, when they first wake up in the morning, nothing else is distracting them yet. So that's where a lot of guys, peak performers, they got a tablet sitting next to the bed. So when they first wake up, they brain dump first thing. That's their hack of when they have all their most pure ideas. I don't know if you've ever heard any of this. Have you ever noticed it's about your own self?
I have. And what I've learned is that people need to find what works for them in that, right? So I'm really careful to tell people, when I tell people what I do, how I do it, it's always from the perspective of this is what's worked for me and this is how I found what worked for me. You need to find what works for you and stop trying to shove yourself in a box. everyone's like, oh, Tony Robbins does this, Bill Gates does this, go do that, do
That's
what a
them.
millionaire does, be a millionaire. It's not, people take that too literally.
You know what the problem with that is? And I love those guys. They're powerful influencers. But I think we also remind ourselves about our own successes too. And it relates to this, like what Tony Robbins does today is not what he did 10, 15 years ago.
Thank you.
Okay. This is a new topic that I use now. I call it, where are you at on the timeline? We're all at different places on the timeline. I can connect to this on the nutritional health coaching that I've done or healthy lifestyle coaching I've done. Like, guys, like, stop the comparison game. If you're going to do a brief comparison, look at where they're at and what they've done to get there.
Yes.
And this came up on the last podcast recording. We were talking with Dr. Nick. We were talking about, listen, man, like we started off the episode about Spartan racing because when he and I connected, his Facebook profile photo has him jumping over the fire in Spartan race. And I've done two. And so we geeked out a little bit about Spartan racing, about healthy lifestyle to go and actually succeed in a Spartan race. And it's like, guys, like you don't just sign up for a Spartan race and then show up and do it. I mean, if you can, you're superhuman. But it's going to kick the crap out of you. Even with his preparation, he did not want to work out for the next 2 weeks afterwards. Like his feet were sore. I was impressed. He literally built his own home training facility in the backyard. Like he set up like mini obstacles and all kinds of stuff. So I was cracking up because I'm like, dude, I did not do any of that. I mean, but but also like I'm a CrossFitter. I'm a mountain biker. I'm a road cyclist. I'm a skier. Like I'm very active. Oh, you got a puppy too?
I do, and I locked him out of the upstairs bedroom and hoped he wouldn't go bark, but apparently he
That's all right. Calvin the Coonhound, all right, he's in the other room. You never know what's going to happen. This past month, every time I'm doing a nighttime podcast, he will let it rip. And I'm like, really, Calvin? Really? So that's just a part of our lives. I have no problem sharing that on the podcast. Don't feel bad about the puppy. So,
okay, well, I think
hey, buddy.
I think someone's dropping off a package at the front door, and he gets very concerned.
Oh yeah, no, Calvin does not like the mailman or the UPS guy or the FedEx guy. It's just not a good thing.
Ralph loses his whole head about it.
What kind of dog?
He is a Shorkie. He's a Shih Tzu Yorkshire Terrier cross.
Oh yeah, they're gonna bark. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And Calvin, he can be dead lazy all day, but if he hears somebody walking up onto the porch, he is sprinting off of our bed, not even his own bed. He's on our freaking bed, and then jumping out across the room, across the living room, and he's right at the door. And then he runs around to the side of the house because he's got to keep barking at him, even though the guy's walking down the street. He's like, I got to make sure I send you off.
You just know you can't come here.
Yeah. He's like, hey, I'm not done with you yet. Hey, let me bark at you out of the side of the house too. Because I didn't get enough on the front of the house. I don't know. Does your dog do some of that too?
Yes. And so he's hysterical. So we have it upstairs, and the upstairs has a big window seat. And so Ralph will go up and he'll sit in the window seat and yell and yell and yell. So I locked him out of up there because he will bark up there, right? But so he'll sit up there and he'll bark and bark. And then he comes tearing down, and he's this big. I mean, he's tiny, right? He's not big. But he comes
nimble.
Tearing down. He's huffing and and he wants you to put it out in the backyard so he can go yell at them again.
See? There you go. I love it. See, this is the beauty of what we're doing. Like, I've brought this on other shows too. Whenever my dog jumped down, I'm like, I don't care anymore. I used to freak out about it.
Yeah.
I'm like, Kristin, I really want to have a great show tonight. Can you really distract him with a cheesy bone or something? And I'm like, you know what? Why do I care? This is truth and transparency. You and I are recording. I don't know when this is going to air yet, but you and I are recording on a Saturday. We're taking time out of our personal lives to put quality content out there and give back to our audience. I mean, this is life. It's okay. We have dogs. Let's not. It was like there was that viral video of the guy. He was being interviewed, and his baby or something or little toddler came walking in. Right. And then his wife sneaks in and grabs him, and the guy's pushing his kid's head away, and he had such bad press on that.
I know, it was on live TV and stuff.
Oh, it was hilarious. And I'm like, but I was like, I think that was a great lesson. Like, we are so worried about what other people think that, and that's where he was at. It's like, you know what? You're a dad. Crap happens. You're working from home, doing an interview from your home office. If nothing, rock that. You and I have the ability to work from home. right? Like, let's rock that. Let's own that. That's part of that entrepreneurial journey. Like you weren't always able to work from home, right?
Oh no. No. Like, there was like, first of all, I was an employee for a while, and
Same here.
they have a hard time with you trying to work from home. And then even when I first I was actually talking with my coach about this morning. I was like, when I started the business, I would leave the house at 8 a.m. I wouldn't get back till 8 p.m. And then I would be doing another 2 or 3 hours of work.
Yeah.
Building it up. Now I'm at the point where I leave the house maybe 3 times a week. I get to do the majority of it from right here. I don't have to go out and meet and run and chase and, drive. And it's amazing. But you look at this, right? Where are you at in the timeline? You look at where I am now. And I did a training session for a bunch of coaches the other day. And they were all like, oh, I can't wait till I'm where you're at. And I'm like, well, once you put in the time and the hours and the effort I put in, come back and tell me that again.
This came up on another podcast. Like I'm a huge, one of my nutrition companies I use is Isogenics, right? That's the stuff sitting there. And gotcha. I don't bring it up on all my shows. And it's a company built on a network marketing business model. When I was firefighting years ago, that was just my stuff that I used to keep myself super healthy. And then, it became a side business, a side hustle. So that was, and I can actually thank that experience. Like, that's not the core of what I do. It's just one of my business units, one of my income streams nowadays. But like, I had a vision of being able to work from home and do video calls, never even visioned a podcast, but just, okay. The point is that in that world, there's a lot of people doing that profession a wrong justice because they're portraying, oh man, you get to get rich from home and create your own financial freedom and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, guys,
stop lying to people.
Number one, not everybody is meant to succeed with that business model. Maybe it clicks for you. Like, I thought that was going to be one of my possible successes. That's why I at least opened myself up and tried it. Do I still make money every single week off of it? Yes. Do I still have the people on my team that I coach and help? Sure. But it's not me. It's just one of my things because I believe in healthy lifestyle, and some people like it and some people don't. Whatever. Right. The point is, though, when I first started that, I wasn't making whatever I make every week now. It's a different place on the timeline. It goes back to podcasting. When this year, for some reason, like when it got to January this year, like I had all these shows banked up. We get through the holiday, and now I'm like, oh my God, like I've burned through episodes, and everybody was all the co-host potentials were busy with holidays and everything else. And I'm like, oh my God, like, am I going to have enough recorded shows to get my 2 episodes out every week? And I've had this show online now for over a year. And I'm like, how am I starting off 2018 worrying about how many podcasts I have recorded? Like, where did I go wrong? And I realized I'm like, and everything was fine. Because then I'm going back to visualization. I visualized myself because like in a week and a half, I'm leaving for 10 days to go ski in Colorado with my fiance. So nice. I'm not going to be able to record during that time. So right now I'm golden because back in January, I said, okay, I'm not going to let that happen again. I'm going to make sure we got enough shows banked up. And my visualization was once the timeline hits February and I'm a week or so out from going to Colorado, I'm going to have more than enough shows to get me through the vacations. So that way my audience is not impacted. And I'll have enough so when I get back, I still got shows in the tank. And I'm there right now. That's why, going back to putting in the work, that's why you and I are recording right now. That's why I have 2 more episodes tomorrow, and I have 2 more on Monday, and I just did 2 on Friday. So in 4 days, I would have banged out another 8 to 10 podcasts. I don't normally do that, but I opened my schedule up to put in the work. Yeah. So people need to be reminded about putting in the work.
And and that drives me crazy because they go off and they see the end result, right? Like, I want to be Tony Robbins. I want to be this. And people even, Steph, man, I wish I could just do what you do. Yeah. Like, I come off stage, they're like, you're so good. I'm like, you didn't see my first presentation or the second or the third. Yeah. There was a span of a year and a half where I did 3 presentations every single week for free. Add that up. That's a lot.
Did you just drop a public speaking knowledge bomb? Are you saying that? Wait, because like there's people out there like you got to bill for this. I mean, what do you mean? Like public speaking, man? Like you're bringing value to that event. Like I did 2 speaking events in 2017, and I didn't get paid for it. And people are like, you're not getting paid for that? And then people all the time, even my fiance, she's like, you're not getting paid for your podcast? Like you should be charging people for that. You're helping them grow their brand online. I'm like, You don't get it.
No, if you gotta you gotta put in the reps. So I just pulled up my calculator. I hadn't run this number. I did over 230 free presentations.
Wow. And how much time since you started, or?
No, in a year and a half.
In a year and a half?
Yeah, in a year and a half.
Damn.
230 plus free presentations. Hour and a half.
Yep.
Free stuff. And I got all my mistakes out. Unfortunately, I got my well, I shouldn't say that, because as soon as you say that, where's some wood, right? I'm sure I didn't get all my mistakes
my standing desk is book. I'm going to knock for you.
Right? But I got a lot of those mistakes out, right? Like my very first presentation, first of all, I had no clue. I drove an hour and a half to go to this guy's home office. He dragged his 4 other roofers in. I did the presentation. I practiced it 100 times, and I still screwed it up. It only lasted 30 minutes. It was supposed to be an hour and 15. And then the guy starts asking me and putting me on the spot to try and chew his team out for him, obviously on something that he's been yelling at them about. And it was the most awkward. Yeah, well, so we're sitting there, and I was like, so you guys have any other questions? And he was like, well, don't you think that if you're following me to a sales presentation and I'm doing the close, shouldn't you just shut the F up? And I was just like...
And you're like, apparently you guys have some personal issues that you're working on. I could step out for a second.
I didn't know enough to do that. I was just like...
Deer in the headlights? See, I would have had fun with that. But see, again... I'm with you. Would I have always had fun with that? No, because I would have been like, what is happening right now?
Right. Now I'm like, I love it when I get a heckler or some sort of smart ass in the room. I'm like, oh, I'll drop bombs just to try and see who the smart asses are so I can call them out and be like, I already got you pinned.
Yeah, there you go.
It's fun now, but...
There's a little tip right there. You just brought this out. It's inevitable you're going to have a heckler or somebody. Yeah. You've been doing more public speaking than me, but I've been in sales like you. I've got the podcast. I talk a lot, too much.
Yeah.
So
hence the olive oil.
Exactly. So the point here is, though, it's like, dude, if you know there's going to be that pain in the ass, call them out. Find a way to get them picked out early. I love that strategy, because now, because you're like, hey man, it's going to be inevitable. Let's get it out now. Because I can crush you, or smash you, and move you on to stay true to your branding.
It is. And my favorite, I'll drop this one for your listeners out there. My favorite way to do it is at the very beginning of the talk. I always start by telling everybody, I'm half Italian. I could talk for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 10 hours. We could be here all night. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about everything from spaghetti to penguins. It's going to be great. Or you guys can have a conversation with me. So what I need from you guys is, when I talk to you, talk back. And then the person who chuckles and is like, I could talk back, that's always your heckler.
There you go. Ooh,
right. And I'm like, not like a 2-year-old. And then at that moment, they should just shut up.
I like that. Now, is this some of the stuff, to throw you more love here, because I didn't realize you actually had 2 separate domains, because you have them plugged together here. But ladies and gentlemen, she also has Scheller University. So is that some of the content that you like to work into your programs?
So Scheller University is what we call a living course. So we are constantly adding courses to this. This is a primarily sales university. So we have, it's 250 some odd videos that are all 2 to 7 minutes long on sales concepts.
Okay.
Understanding them and how to implement them. We've had a lot of people asking for a public speaking course, so I'm not going to say that is not coming anytime soon.
Well, in the end, if people ask, that's this is another great lesson, right? You can back this up. Yeah. You think this is what people want. So then you spend all this time, all this money, and all this effort building it, and then you go to launch it, and it falls flat in the face because is it what they wanted? Did you actually ask, or you just assumed? And then you get frustrated because it's like, oh man, I spent all this time building this amazing program, and nobody wants it.
Right. Oh my gosh. So
I love this because you're hinting at a possible new program, but you're making sure that your audience wants it.
We are. And, there's 2 pieces to selling a program. Is 1, make sure it's what your audience wants. 2, make sure you get it in front of them appropriately.
Ooh, right platforms.
Right? You got to know, I can have the best platform in the world. This is a great university. It makes me quite a nice little chunk of money every month. But, if I don't get it in front of the people who are going to sign up in a way that they're going to respond to, I'm not going to get anywhere. And so it's twofold. And I think people forget that. Sometimes they blame it on the marketing when it was actually something nobody wanted, or they blame it on, oh, nobody wanted it. Nobody understood it. I'm sorry. That's what everyone says. No one understood what I was doing.
Well, this goes back to these viral online guys, which I do appreciate what they say. It's like, listen, one of the best ways to build your brand is be patient, but also put your best stuff out there. And everybody's afraid to put their, like, well, no, I got to charge for that. I'm like, no, dude, you got to get people hooked. All right.
Yeah.
You pick out probably, because you have mini courses on there, right? You probably pick out one of your best mini courses that just drops the bombs. And then you get it out there as like a free download or whatever. You get them on your email list. You get them into your sales funnel process because you want to make sure they are your audience. And if you put your best stuff out there and that person doesn't like it, they're not your audience. But then you're attracting the right people that do want the training, that do want the knowledge, that here's a great little slogan, that actually want to be sold.
Well, and so this goes back to, usually just like loops this all the way around to the very beginning of our conversation, that authenticity thing.
I love going full circle.
We all get screwed so many times, right?
Yep.
So we want to know, if I'm going to spend money on you, it better be legit. I better get my money's worth. And so people go for like, I've got a client right now. I've been trying to get him to understand you can't go for a $5,000 deal the first time you shake their hand. Like, that's not how people work.
Oh, well, Stephanie, come on. You're a sales professional. You can't close on the first handshake?
Well, yeah, no, not usually.
Come on, that's a $5 million handshake every time. Come on.
Well, so the handshake is part of the close, but like he's like going to them and saying, hey, so let's spend $5,000 a month. And I'm like, dude, no one's going to buy. You got to build them into it. They got to trust you. People get screwed all the time. I always use the story.
You're building the relationship.
Yeah, and there's so many scam artists, right? I just posted an article on my Facebook about a whole bunch of coaches who got shut down by the FTC.
Ooh,
yeah,
I didn't know this.
Whole bunch, like 8 or 9.
I have to go back and look at that now.
Yeah, because
they're not real coaches.
Basically, it was a scam. So what they would do is they were using the online funnels and Facebook and all this stuff to sell you into a $99 coaching program. But then once you got into the $99 coaching program, you never got any coaching. They just sold you to the next one, the next one. There were people who spent $30,000, $40,000, $50,000.
This pisses me off because this was happening to literally that gym we were at this morning, the owner, earlier this week. He's like, hey, Scott, I got something to show you after your workout. He's like, I want your opinion. I'm like, okay. And some guy from New York, supposedly from New York City, he's a social media, hey, hire us to do your social media marketing. I'm like, which is, by the way, this is something that I do. And he's like, well, I just want your opinion because this guy sends him a 15-minute long video through Facebook Messenger, mind you. And it's all screen captures of this guy walking through and clicking on my buddy Rob's websites, his social media profiles, and telling you what he's going to do. And then if you sign now, it's $1,000 setup and then $1,000 a month. And I'm like, okay, where's the guy's brand? Where's his business, right? He has a 1-page landing page for his site. And I was like, this dude's using ClickFunnels. Now, hold on. I'm not going to rip on ClickFunnels. I respect ClickFunnels when used ethically and the right way. This guy, I'm like, dude, you don't actually have a core business. I can't call you. And the guy only communicated through Facebook Messenger. I'm like, where's the relationship building?
Yeah.
Then the other red flag was Rob's not a slow guy. He's on it, right? He's like, oh yeah. So I basically challenged him on the fact that I was like, do you have any testimonials from other CrossFit gyms? And he's like, well, because in his video, he talks about, well, our other CrossFit clients like to do it this way. And then at the end of it, he's like, okay, so can you send me some testimonials on some CrossFit gyms? He's like, well, no, we don't have those documented yet, but we do have one from a personal trainer and this other fitness studio. And he's like, wait a minute, earlier in your call, in the video, it says our other CrossFit customers.
Right.
So you're a sales guy. And then he does the classic thing. You're going to love this. He's like, listen, it's not in the budget. He's like, and Rob's like, yeah, I don't want to drop $1,000 today. He's like, well, hold on a second. He's like, let me go talk to my
manager.
Like, oh my God. Comes back and he's just like, well, listen, he's like, if you sign today, he's like, we'll go ahead and cut that in half. It'll be a $500 setup fee. And Rob's like, wait a minute. So you're already devaluing your program. Because that's what I saw too. I'm like, Rob didn't say he can't afford it. He just said he didn't want to spend $1,000
Didn't
today,
want to
right
spend
here,
it.
right now, right? And you go ahead and discount it. You're looking for the
Oh my
quick
God.
sell, right?
Yeah.
I figured I was hoping to see this emotion from you.
Right? Like, dude, you're hitting all my hot buttons here.
I knew you'd love that because this Strive and Grind guy, I set him off yesterday because he's a branding guy. And he also got pissed because you don't have a core website. Your brand doesn't exist. There's no way to contact you. So you're a flash in the pan business, right? There's no longevity. You're not building a relationship. Like I figured we could tie this back to your other book actually too, because we talk about friend power in your other book, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we're talking right now about building a relationship, okay?
Yeah.
It takes friends to do that. It takes relationship building. None of that was happening. So...
Well, and what really irritates me, and every time I get like a letter, I call those people out when people reach out to me like that, or they send me a letter in the mail or whatever, those ones that are trying basically to scam these business owners. Because I'll bet you anything, if Rob had signed up with that guy, he wouldn't have done anything. Wouldn't have done a single thing.
That's what I was worried about. Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, dude, I'm glad you put the kibosh on this and you want to check with me on this because I could see exactly what this guy's doing.
Right. Well, like what irritates me is, so they'll get some business owner who is desperate, who goes, oh my gosh, I know I need social media. I've been told I need social media. So I'm going to just go ahead and sign up for something. And so they will buy this, whatever, right? Like I got, when I filed my LLC, I got a letter in the mail, packet in the mail that was like, oh my gosh, I filed for an EIN. And
yeah, but see, those are public databases. There's people, I call them the ambulance chasers of the LLC world, right? Like they're just
Yes.
waiting for the new list coming out.
Well, and then the way they write their letters make it look like you have to register, right? Like you're going to get fined, and
you don't have LLC insurance.
Yeah. Oh my God. So I was like panicking at first when I registered a couple, because it's your reptilian brain just kicks in. It sees the red, it sees, and
fight
you're
or
like,
flight.
Ugh.
Yeah. Fight or flight. You're in protection mode. Like that's your brain first does. It's there to protect you. Yeah.
So I sat down and as soon as I calmed down and read it, I was like, okay, so I actually cut a video and I was like, do you guys ever get these? This is bullshit. I was like super pissed off.
See, that's the kind of videos I love.
Email.
I love that.
What?
I love videos like that because that's like, it's real time, it's raw, it's truthful, and you're actually teaching somebody something. How many people have fallen prey to that stuff?
Exactly. Yeah, like that's my point, is all these guys, and if that guy sends out enough messages, he's going to get some business owner who's desperate and panicked. Hallmarks of a business owner, they don't have any time. They want to make decisions quickly and move on. They're going to trust you to be a good, person taking care of them. And there's too many crappy people out there. Well,
and Rob brought up a valuable point, and I know the health and fitness space really, really well, but I purposely don't target them right now as part of my brand or my business growth because he said it himself. Most gym owners, especially CrossFit gym owners, are passionate coaches who love their sport and love coaching people and then decide to build a gym, build a business off the community, which can be done. But most of these CrossFit gym owners have either side jobs, full-time careers, or in Rob's case, he's full-time. He's running his business full-time. But it's like, dude, like if he spends another $1,000 a month on a whole new program to manage his social media, he's got to add at least 5 new members to justify that expense. So he needs to see a return on that investment. And, there's no guarantee on that.
No, and that irritates the crap out of me. And we'll have to wrap up, unfortunately, because I gotta be somewhere by 3. But that irritates me because these guys. Sorry, this is a really hot topic for me because I've seen so many people go out of business over this crap. And you get I got a friend who got like hardcore pitched for, you need to have a social media campaign. The guy wanted $2,000 a month from her. She was only making $125K a year. And he made her feel like a terrible business owner for not doing that. Like, do people understand how much $1,000 of a small business owner's budget is?
That's a lot.
That's just on social media? Are you kidding with me?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I get so heated over that stuff.
Well, and this is actually a great way to bring the show to a close because it shows. And I knew I would get a rise out of you because I could tell you're genuine, you're real, and this is the passion that we should be putting into who we are and what we bring forth. Yeah. So if nothing else, like people listening to this, whether you are a fellow Taekwondo lover, whether you like CrossFit like I do, whether you love sales or marketing or hate sales and marketing, hopefully you've realized that this is what it takes to succeed. We talked a lot about today. You got to put in the work. You got to be real. You got to build relationships. You got to remind yourself that gatekeepers are human beings too. All this stuff. And also at the very end here, be passionate about this. Like, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, consider doing something else. That's all I'm throwing out there.
No, I agree. So you do Isagenix. I tried a couple of network marketing companies trying to replace my income a couple times.
Yeah.
And
I wasn't doing it for the income. I'm a health nut. So, and that's why I still use it.
I was.
Yeah.
I was like, I want away from this job. I hate working for this company.
And it can work for the right person. It can.
It can. Well, it can. And for the right person with the right product. And I never got the right product I was passionate about. Never really cared.
Well, because if a company is doing this, and I'm not going to dwell on this, but if a company is not letting the product lead and they're letting the business model lead, that's a red flag.
That is a red flag. And that was 2 of them I tried. That was what they were doing. And that was a big problem. And what I learned from all that was when I finally did start my business, and, you read the story is in under 4 months, literally 4 months on the nose, I'd made more money part-time than full-time. I filled my 2-week, resignation period, but that was it. I moved on, and the difference was the passion. I was passionate about what I was doing with these small business owners. Nice. I cared about helping them out. And if for the listeners, they get nothing else out of today, it's whatever you do it with passion.
See, normally I have to ask my co-host to give me some final words to close out the show. And you just nailed it. A true professional. Because I literally say, listen, if they forget, I literally say this, if you forget everything else we've discussed today, what are some final words you want to close the show with? So this is not your first rodeo.
Well, I'll agree with that one. But this is
you nailed it. Be passionate.
Passion creates action, and action creates results.
Wonderful.
That's it.
All right. Well, hang tight. I'll give you a proper goodbye as soon as I end this recording. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we kind of hinted at it. Passion creates change. Let's do this. All right. So again, follow her at thestephaniescheller.com. Everything will be hyperlinked on the show notes like we always do. All of our social media profiles. You can follow her. You can professionally stalk her. Whatever you got to do. But definitely reach out to her. Check out the books. Friend Power. Okay. Seriously. It's about the power of your friendships as well, ladies and gentlemen. And if you hate gatekeepers, check out Getting Past the Gatekeeper. So again, thanks for listening in. And that was Stephanie. She's a rock star. Tune in again to another show. But again, as I tell you, all you guys, you too can live the fuel. Talk to you guys again soon. And you're free of the pod. I just had the video flowing. That's it.
Bam. So, awesome.
Well, you got a thing to go to. So thank you for hanging out. And tell your puppy to thank him for transparency, right? We have to bring some realism in. I love that. So.
We did. Where'd he go? There he is. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Oh, you're still mic'd up.
There we go. Let me kill. There we go. All right, come here, Happy. You want to come here, or are you ignoring me now? Because I can come here. A little flirt. He's like, no, I'm not getting out of my bed.
I was gonna say, and I actually switched over to the other mic, so I don't see the video right now. So.
Oh, that's right. Okay, because I hold up.
Or you just disconnect that one.
There we go.
There you go.
Well, so I disconnected the one mic because I was going to run out the door.
There you go.
But, so you can see me pull it out.
Well, no, this has been great. And
this was great.
I knew we were going to have some fun. So, and seriously, if you need any other advice, like just shoot me an email or something on the microphone stuff, audio stuff. I like to see people do it right and not feel like they don't know what the hell they're doing. But it sounds like you got somebody else in your corner too. So that's good. So
I have a couple, and I like having a couple people I can go to get some advice on, because what's worked for one person may not necessarily work for another. So I'm always looking for, hey, what do you think? So I will probably shoot you a few emails on that one at some point.
No problem. I am a gearhead.
Oh, cool. Well, when you get it up, let me know. I'll promote it out.
Oh, you know it. Like I said, I'm normally at least 2 weeks out. I have to double check the calendar now because I might be almost 3 weeks out because there's been so much hustling going on. But I always update everybody saying, hey guys, your show's going live. Here's the links. And then if you beat me to sharing it first, I'll end up sharing your post first because I believe in cross-sharing and cross-pollinating. So
cool.
All right.
I have a couple people that I think might be cool. Should I send them to that preview link?
Oh, for like a to get pre-approved. Yeah. For if they're new and I have no clue who they are, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and then because remember, I have a questionnaire that says, how did you find me? How do we get connected? So as long as I know that, that'll help me with then chat with them and see if they're going to be a fit for the show. So
okay, cool.
But I mean, it seems like you're a professional. I think
I've got a couple podcasts that I'd love to at least bring you on our business owner spotlight.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So I'd love to get back to your audience.
Cool. Then let's do that.
Sharing is caring.
All right. I really do got to run.
Yes. Have a great weekend.
Talk to you soon. All right. Later. You too. Bye.